Look at these guys. These are the tomatoes that I threatened to compost in my last video when I was potting these up. They're really leggy and need to be out of these cells, but I'm not concerned about tomatoes today. It's my peppers. I need to start hardening them off, and I need to pot them up. So what better video than we just do them both. It's high time these got outside to harden off. Welcome to Black Gumbo Southern Gardening. Today we're going to talk about hardening off our indoor started plants. Come along. Hardening off. It's not a very sunny day, but that's the ideal time to start hardening off these plants that have known nothing but artificial life for their very short lives. So I've got a bunch of peppers here. I started them indoors. Why? Why do you have to harden off? And how can you avoid having to do this? Well, the hardening off process is so that these plants that have only known artificial light can get used to living outdoors under the harsh sun. You know, if you stay out in the sun too long, you'll burn. Same thing with these plants, but they've got to be acclimated to the outdoors. And so what I like to do is about a week to a week and a half before I plan to put any kind of plant outside, I like to start gradually bringing it out into the sunlight. The first day for about an hour and a half, if it's really sunny. On a kind of mixed overcast day like today, I wouldn't worry about them being out here for 2 or 3 hours. They'll let you know if they're not taking the sun very well. You'll start seeing them get sun scald. And then the next day, do the same thing, but leave them out maybe an hour and a half longer. And through the week, you progressively leave them out until at the end of the week, at the end of a full 7 days, these plants can stay outside all day long. And that is the complete process. Why? How can you avoid having to harden off? There are lots of ways. Let's talk about some of those. As I talk about hardening off, I'm also going to be potting up these pepper plants. And the question that was raised is, how can you avoid having to pot up your plant or harden off your plants? Because you don't want to be going outdoors, indoors, back and forth all the time. That's true. Well, one way is you can start your seeds outside. Just start them outdoors. Start them in these little containers outside. Start them directly in the ground. And then you don't ever have to worry about this process because, well, they're already acclimatized to the sun because they grew up from their very first days in the sun. You could do that. The disadvantage to that, especially if you have a short growing season, is you have to wait until the sunshine is bright enough, until the temperatures in the soil are warm enough that your seeds will start. And with peppers require, a pretty warm soil. So it's better for me if I start them early indoors. Well, I can have my pepper plants ready to go outdoors much sooner. So you can avoid the hardening off process if you wait until the temperatures are right for your seeds to germinate outdoors. But if you have a short growing season, then you might not bring your plants to full maturity. So I'll show you an example of that. If you follow my channel, you know that I started my single seed challenge outdoors. And these tomatoes and peppers have not come up yet because it hasn't been very warm outside. Now it's warm today. There's hope for those today. I have one plant coming up here, and I don't think that's a tomato plant, but we'll see. All right, hardening off. Like I said, I usually take the approach of 1 hour the first day, 2.5 hours the next day, 3 hours, maybe 3.5 hours the following day, till at the end of the week I'm at 8 or 9 hours. The plants can stay out. But if you've got another way of doing it, let me know. Man, look at these leggy tomato plants. These are the leftovers. These I'm probably going to share with my friends, but I've got a bunch of peppers that I need to put in these pots. Let's get these guys out of the way. All right, I'm just using a standard potting mix now Remember when we started these seedlings, they were put in seed starting mix. But I've got just a plain old bagged potting mix here and a Sharpie marker. Now I've already talked about this up potting process that I like to use, using styrofoam cups with holes already punched, and I can write the name of the plant like this Sweet Sunrise Bell right on here. And people, even though I explained why I'm using styrofoam, people still get on to me in the comment section about using styrofoam, especially in the garden. And all I have to say to that is, I'd rather me be in charge of the styrofoam than some yahoo that's just going to improperly dispose of this stuff. And if you remember, I talked about the insulation that styrofoam provides. That's a pretty plug, isn't it? I'm just going to drop that in here and fill in around it. And you know, that's my first pepper of the year potted up. They really need to get into these pots here. And just from them being out here, this is going to take me about an hour and a half to get all these peppers potted up. Just from these peppers being out in natural sunlight, they are beginning the process of being hardened off. I'm going to place them in a container here where they will go back under the lights in that container. I'm selecting the best plants, of course, out of my seedlings. I'm not going to be able to grow all of these, obviously. There's another way that you can avoid hardening off. Not just starting your seeds in trays like this outdoors. I mean, if you're going to start your seeds outdoors and avoid hardening off, you might as well just start them directly in your soil where they're going to grow. That's what I would do. But some people like to try to get a head start and don't have lights. How can you avoid hardening off if you don't have lights indoors? You don't have a seed starting station indoors. Well, you can grow in a cold frame. If you have a cooler environment but it's still sunny outside, you can build a cold frame, which is like a miniature greenhouse. Or you can start your seeds in a greenhouse outdoors, and that can expose them to natural light early in their life. And you can avoid this in and out, in and out. And for me, in and out means up and down the stairs, because my grow lights are upstairs. Once again, a cloudy day like this is ideal for these peppers on their first time outside. And remember, once they're in their new home, water them in really well. This is red flame cayenne pepper. It's one of my favorite peppers. It is a great producer. I grow this every year, unless one of them makes it through the winter, which they have in the past. This produces exceptionally good cayenne peppers for me. Uh-oh, broke that one. Compost. And they're very long and a very heavy producer. So this cayenne pepper has been a staple in our garden. And I'm out of pepper plants, so I gotta grow some more. Red flame. I think 4 is all I'll need for this. All right, let's get these out here. There's another way of hardening off your plants that is easy if you have the right setup. All right, right here, this is my front porch, and the sun comes up behind us and it sets over that way, but it sets a little bit to that side, so this is shaded pretty much all day long. And so these plants have the benefit of filtered shade coming through my oak tree, and they get a little bit of sunlight but not much, so I can leave them here and they can get used to the wind whipping around and strengthen up those tender stems. Whew, yeah, that's a lot of work going up and down those stairs all day long. So if you have a place like this where you can put them, these don't get much sun. Maybe they get an hour a day, and you can gradually move them over to give them more each day. Over here, that gets full sun, and those tomato plants, well, they're fully hardened off. Well, there's a short video for you. Short because it doesn't take long to explain how to harden off your starts. So I'm going to continue to do this. I don't want to bore you. If you want to be bored watching somebody pot up some plants, go check out my video on how to pot plants up, and we'll talk about all the do's and don'ts of that. You can click that video right there at the top. And if you'd like to subscribe, well, we'd really appreciate that. We're going to get back into growing vegetables this year, talk about how to prune trees and keep them small, fruit trees in your backyard, talk about container gardening, and yeah, we're a small backyard gardening channel, and I hope you'll come along. Hey, thanks. We'll talk to you next time. Happy gardening to you. Bye-bye.